Hey, what's up you guys, it's IAmTheLionRider, and we are up bright and early to get this video out because I didn't get early access, so I have to wait like everyone else to experience it firsthand. However, just looking at this pack, we are here for another very, very exciting and always controversial prop tier list. So, as always, as I do with every single one of these DLCs, I am going to be covering over all of the props in tier list fashion. So, I have to say, I was actually going into this pack a little bit worried that, you know, some of these props were going to be super specific. I was totally wrong in that regard. I thought this was going to be, oh, it's kind of boring, it's like a Morocco pack. No, this is easily the best this is the best pack. Like, I'll straight up say that. The only thing that even remotely comes close is like South America, but the 1.6 free update props easily make this is a must-have pack if you are anyone who builds. So this is absolutely a must-have. So without further ado, let's get started with why it's a must-have. So first off, we have Foliage again. So this was actually a major concern that a lot of people had with, you know, just in general, that the game always forgets about Foliage. But, you know, here we are. We actually have it this time. So as you can see here, we have a bunch of new bushes and plants, all from Africa. Now, even though the pack is mostly Northern African, I am glad that they added a couple of South African general foliage for the free people, so that is really nice. So I'm going to come out and start off with my favorite foliage from this pack, and that is the Drin grass. So this grass looks amazing. So compared to any of the existing grasses that we have in the game, this is easily the best. This looks really good. I think I was talking with Drew about this, like the leaves and stuff seem a lot sharper. I think they have higher res textures, and it really shows because this grass looks great. I've been raving about it in the images, and so honestly, this is already going to be probably an A tier. Now, I know I have a very high margin set with like triple S and stuff. So just because I'm putting it in A doesn't mean that this isn't, you know, bad by any means. This is an A tier prop for sure. So the grass goes there. Next up, we have the bushes. Now these bushes are Nitraria Retusa bushes. It's a hard thing to say, but it is the same thing. It looks really, really good. There's some popping issues I'm noticing. That's interesting. It looks like the LOD 0 actually has the foliage on this bush missing, so that's kind of a bug actually. Surprised no one reported that during early access. But this is also very good. I'm going to put this in probably like a B tier. It's not the greatest bush by any means, but it's definitely a lot better than what we had. So next up, we have the quiver trees. Now, the quiver trees are a really good plant objectively. Like, I think the quality of them is excellent. So I just want to mention, as I always have to, because a lot of people always criticize me over this, the way I rate props, if this is your first time here, I rate them based off of usability and versatility. So a prop could objectively look great, be really, really nice, but I'm not going to use it. And the quiver tree is a perfect example. The bark texture looks awesome. The actual trees look really nice. However, they are super, super specific, so I don't think that many people are going to use them. So it's just, I'm going to put it in C tier because the quality of it does make it stand out, but I don't think it's like the greatest looking thing by any means. And it's just not going to be like what you think of when you think of Africa. Now, that being said, if you're going to be using it for like a Moroccan or like a Middle Eastern thing, you might be able to get away with it. But I don't think that many people are going to be using it all that often. Which brings us to our next thing, which is the Dragon Blood tree, which is very, very similar. So the Dragon Blood tree, same thing. Very, very good looking. I love the bark texture on this one. This one looks really, really good. And the tree itself looks cool. However, unless you are making an African build, I don't think you're going to be using it all that often. And so, like I said, Quiver Tree and Dragon Blood, very similar to each other. Now we come to kind of one of my favorite trees, but another one that's a little too specific. So this is the sausage tree. So these are found in Africa, and they're kind of called this because they have these kind of like hanging fruits that look like sausages. And I like the tree shapes. I think that's an odd thing to say, but it's the only thing that I actually have to say is kind of selling me on these compared to the other ones. So I'm gonna put these in B tier, but the sausages are kind of the only thing that ruins it for me. Like, I'd love to use these in like a temperate biome or something, but like obviously the fruit are very specific to Africa. So here is maybe a controversial opinion. I'm not a fan of these yellow fever acacias. So the yellow fever trees in general look really good, but I'm not a fan of how Frontier did them. So they made them very, very yellow, and that's kind of, I get they're called yellow fever trees, but I'm not really a fan of the shape of them. They don't really read like acacia tree, just looking at them visually or anything, and the leaves just don't really read acacia either. It doesn't fill out the same kind of, I don't know, like need or something, or like visual style of like, this is like an acacia tree. Looks like an acacia tree, reads like an acacia tree. These just kind of read like, almost like they belong in like North America in like like an autumn pack or something. They're just not my favorite. It's not that they're bad. I obviously love yellow fever acacias. I was going to include them in the safari pack. And I might still, just because I'm not really a fan of the way the Frontier did them. So, I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. But we will finally come to our last two plants, which I think they did excellent on. And those are the African oil palm and the duum palm. And these look awesome. I think these are probably the best and most usable that the pack has to offer. So they're definitely high A tier. So definitely, I'm gonna probably use the smaller ones just because we have a lot of props to probably cram in these higher tiers. But they look awesome. So those trees are, that brings us to basically the end of our foliage category. So foliage, really, really well done this time. Like I said, you know, it's not like, oh my god, the foliage was awful or whatever. A, B, and C tier, for the most part, is pretty good. Again, yellow fever, the only reason I did D tier is because I'm not really a fan of how they look overall. I think they don't look like the texture was done on them. Like, it just feels like it just doesn't look complete. It doesn't look like a yellow fever acacia. It's just my point. But next up, so we're going to go over the actual real props. So I guess I'll kind of start on a high note, work our way to the low points in this pack, and then end on a high note. I think that's a fair point. So we're going to start off with the cream of the crop of this pack, and that is the chain link. So the chain link is the most requested item in the entire game, and we have a lot of it, and I am so grateful that Frontier actually like took the time and like actually did justice by the actual chain link, because this looks awesome. So as you can see here, we have these traditional, you know, chain link fences that have bars and stuff, and a lot of people would maybe be concerned about this at first and be like, oh, well, you know, they have borders and stuff. But then they went ahead and said, no, here's the borderless versions as well, because we know you want them. And we have teeny tiny pieces all the way up to the big old, you know, 4x4 and even 8x8, which is awesome. And then similarly, this was another thing they didn't have to do, but they went ahead and did it. They made it FlexiColor, and they made the chain link FlexiColor and the bars FlexiColor. And that goes for everything. So the mesh fencing, same thing. Here you have the wire color, and then you have the mesh color. And that is awesome. I am so glad they did that. So I'm not going to, like, you know, put each of these separately, because you're going to use all of them probably, depending on the size of your project. But these are going to be your triple S tier. These are the props that everyone was waiting on for ages. So I am so glad we finally have them in the game. And people are going to be like, well, Nick, your mod's obsolete. I don't even care. I am glad these actually have good hitboxes. That's the immediate thing that comes to mind. So good hitboxes, good size. You have a lot of varieties. It's all in the base game. I'm cool with it. I have no issue that the mod's obsolete. So next up, I want to talk about the weaker parts of this pack. Like I said, it's not really that bad compared. This isn't like a Mecharoo situation, but some of these statues, you know, this is always an issue, are a bit over stylized. So I'm gonna go with the worst one first, and that is these statues. So maybe it's just me, I don't like the garbage statue style. They look cool objectively, and I don't know, maybe if you make them all brown, they can kind of fit in with the existing Mecharoo and the lion, you know, weird steampunk style. But, like, something this specific is, like, a perfect example of, like, who is really going to ever use this unless you're making a Africa pack of builds. Like, today, you're probably going to be seeing a lot of time lapses, and they'll use them, and then I don't think this prop is ever going to be used after that. So, it's an F tier. But the other statues I'm actually a little bit more lenient with because they're not too bad. So here we have the African penguin statues. We have a clay version, which is interesting, but it's flexi-color. So that's really good. So this honestly fits in as a limestone statue without really being that crazy. And the bronze statue, it looks good. It's a little too greenish for my liking. It's not that it's bad by any means. It's just that the other bronze statues in the game already are more brownish, so it's kind of weird that they leaned into the green on this one. But it definitely looks good. So for these statues, I'm going to put them in probably B tier. I think they're not bad by any means. The pose is a little weird. I think it's trying to match the existing King Penguin statues and stuff, but it's a little weird. The only thing I also will say is, while the clay texture works for the clay statue, they clearly just copied it for the bronze version, and it doesn't really work because a bronze statue wouldn't be that like rough and stuff. But not bad by any means. So finally we have the last two statues, which are the meerkat and the fennec fox. So these look rather good. They are flexi-color, which is awesome, and they're Egyptian themed. So the main thing is neither of these animals live in Egypt, and that's usually the main criticism when it comes to the Africa pack as a whole. But you know what? They're good statues. I'm gonna put them in B tier as well. But I should put them higher than the penguins. But they are good as well. I have no issue with them. They're themed, but they're not crazy. It's not. I don't know. I normally would say, oh my god, these are horrible. I don't hate them for some reason. I think they're pretty okay, actually. And that's just odd for me. I think it's just because they visually do look really nice. And it's not like they're abundant. And they're flexi-color, which is always nice. But next up, we are back on a high note. So, like, that was the... that was supposed to be the low section. So we got one F tier prop in that whole low section. But next up, we have a thing that I'm super, super excited about. And that is rope is also in the game now. And it is flexi-color. So... we had rope before, it wasn't flexi-color, and it wasn't this thin. All of this rope immediately, this is probably... Do I want to put it in triple S? I kind of want to put it in triple S. Yeah, I think I'm gonna. So, because I feel like a lot of people, now that they have all of these little pieces, especially this little rope knot, do you know how useful this piece is? This is gonna be like, it's the tiniest piece ever, and that's why it's gonna be so useful. That's gonna be awesome. This tassel I'm gonna knock down a peg, because the tassel's not really that, you know, that might go down a few pegs. Probably A tier. We'll just kind of bury it, because I don't really know many people who are gonna use the tassel, but the actual rope is gonna be very useful. So, next up, we can kind of go over... so these are my personal favorite pieces. I don't know if anyone else is going to like them. But the new African painted logs. So these are the thing that I was going to include in the Safari pack. And I probably still will include them. But this was when I found out about them. I was like, oh, yeah, that's gonna ruin some stuff, because this was like a major, like, big point of the Africa pack, but they did such a good job. We have a bunch of different sizes, and they're all really thin little logs, so you can just make those nice little fences. Especially now that we have the new rope pieces, you can make that type of fence that I was going to include in the Africa pack. And it's super flexi color, so you can definitely make kind of just like very like cool wood with like different variation and stuff. It looks awesome. So I have no issue. Again, I am so glad that we have these officially in the pack. So for me, these are double S tier. So these are very, very good. Like I love some of this stuff. So next up, I know I'm kind of hopping all over the place. It makes no sense. So we'll do some of the super niche stuff first. So this mosaic planter. So it's definitely very nice looking, and it's not bad by any means, but it is kind of themed. You can kind of hide it a little bit by coloring it to all one thing, but I'm gonna say it's probably a D tier. It's a little too themed for my liking. It's not a bad prop. I love all the mosaic style for the pack, but it is a little weird. So next up, I guess we can stick with the tile theme, because for some reason, I just looked up originally the African tab, like the North African thing, but all the props weren't listing for some reason, so I'll just do them manually. But here we have the ceramic tiles. So these are going to be probably double S tiers as well, because we have so many just cool little super flexy color. So you would think like, oh, like a piece like this, it's all just one color. No, they went ahead and made all 4 channels separate colors. So you could literally do weird designs like this. You can make like little, like, you know, flags almost or something, like, and there's so many of these. We have just all these different shapes and textures and stuff. And so even if you're not someone who is super into the Moroccan theme or something, you're gonna get some use out of these pieces regardless. They are super nice, and so I am glad we actually have them. So those are super awesome. Next up, we have, we'll go over these. So these are the plaster cones, and these are some of my favorites. So they're not like super in your face or anything, but they are flexicolor, and they make really good rocks. I think I already saw, I think it was Eben was using them for rocks, and they do look really good for that use. So we didn't get any new rocks in this pack. I was kind of, you know, disappointed by that. But the amount of plaster and stuff in this pack, you could make custom rocks super easy now. So I'm honestly fine with it. Next up, so these are kind of, so this is kind of the thing they're flexing with the new capabilities of this pack, is semi-transparent stuff. So as you can see here, you can vaguely see through the stained glass here, which is really cool. So I was doing stained glass for the Safari pack as well, and honestly I might have to update the pieces to actually use this capability, because this looks really cool. It is a cool mechanic. Super flexi color as always, you know, they did a really good job with that. So again, not any issues. Actually, you can change the metal color too, so that's actually, yeah, these are very cool. They're probably A tier. I might put them in B tier. They're a little specific, but they are really cool pieces. This little fascia. No one ever uses the fascias. Like, I don't even know what they're for. It's kind of specific. I'm gonna maybe put it in D tier. It's a little too specific, and I don't really know what you would use it for other than like a window. But there's other window props anyway, so it's kind of, you know. But next up, so I love these pieces, but I also have a gripe with them. So we have these are called the wall tops, and they are really flexicolor. As you can see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4 channels. So they tried to add 4 channels of flexicolor ability to as many props as possible. And while I love these props, this one is the only one that's a little weird. I wish they just made a full rounded corner as well. That is my only gripe. So I'm gonna dock it a point just because they didn't include that. So I'd probably put these in B tier. I'm gonna put them in C tier. It's not that they're bad, because they are gonna be useful. It's just so odd that they wouldn't just, you know, just fill it in a little bit. And so, like, you can just kind of make a dome out of it. And I suppose you could probably make the argument that, well, if you really want to do that, you can just manually create it and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but that's a pain. You know, I don't want to do that. Just make a full version, and that, you know, I don't know. That's just my take, at least. So here is the North African wall light, and it looks kind of like a... At first I thought it was like a genie lamp or like a hookah like thing, but like it looks kind of cool. It's definitely a little bit more on the whimsical side. I might put it I'm gonna put it in C tier. It's not bad. It could have some use. It's a little too whimsical for my liking, but it's not bad. So next up, so I love these pieces. So I've been talking about them all week because I couldn't really share any news about the Africa pack, but I knew how much I was going to enjoy these pieces. So these are all just different wall shapes. So they're very akin to the ones that we got in Australia, but they're even smaller. And again, super flexi color. So what I was saying is, if you're someone who wanted a, you know, African, like a true, you know, East African, South African type thing, you could definitely just use these pieces and like make your designs that you wanted, essentially, like with these pieces, because you can definitely go kind of crazy with, like, you know, a bunch of repeating designs and then add a couple of like little white circles inside or something. You know, you definitely have a lot of options now. So with all of this being said, I think the colors they chose make them look like they're made out of Play-Doh, but these are probably S tier. They're going to be really cool for making those kind of intricate designs, especially kind of like someone like Just Goron or something. Like when you're making specific designs, little pieces like that are useful. I wish they were more like straight edge or whatever a little bit, but that's just nitpicking. I think they're going to be really good regardless. Canopy, you know, I'm just going to put that, you know, that's like a D tier. That, you know, no one likes it. It's just ugly. Like, I don't think anyone's going to use it. So, the Plaster Tower Dome. So, this is a weird one, because it does look really cool. It's the only one that they chose to explicitly not make white, except for this one. I think this is another bug. I think the flexi color on this one is wrong, because it's not the same as the rest of the plaster set. But this one they try to make stand out because, oh, it's a dome. It's kind of cool. And it's cool. It's very nice looking. I don't think it's anything spectacular. I don't think that many people are going to use it. But it's cool. You know, it's an option. I feel like most people are still going to go back to the traditional dome technique, but it's cool. Just to kind of round out this side, I want to do these now. We have the arbor pieces. So these are brand new wood pieces. And now here's the thing. When I first saw this, I'm like, oh, it's like the existing lattice pieces, but you have one flexi color channel. No, they went ahead and like made it so that you have a edge color and then each individual cross hatch. So like you can do crazy color combos and stuff, and that's really cool. And by doing that, honestly, it kind of won me over. This is kind of like a brand new custom chain link, which is like in its own form. Like what I just did, that's like its own kind of fence too. So that kind of looks really cool. So for that reason, these ones kind of get boosted to S tier as well. They're definitely a lot more useful than I initially expected, which is really, really cool. And then similarly, you know, you gotta hand it to the brand new wood pieces. You know, you can never have enough wood pieces. So what I like about this, what makes these wood pieces stand out compared to the rest of the wood pieces? I like these pieces, these crossbar large. They're not supposed to probably be used for how I'm going to use them, but they're really good for like broken boards. So because they have these kind of like little extensions and stuff with little chips in them, it makes it so that they actually kind of stand out as like, oh, they're like brand new, like chipped wood or something if you have like a broken plank. So they're probably double S tier, just because of versatility. It's so good. So next up, the new mud pieces. So this was part of the free update, and the mud pieces in the game were all bound to be part of the normal like wall set. Now, luckily, these ones now are they're free from their grid platform, so you can literally rotate them any which way, and so that's super useful. So, since a lot of people use the mud pieces in general, I'm probably going to put these in S tier, just because they're very, very, very useful. And that is going to be very helpful, that you can now have non-gridded mud pieces. And so next up, so this, I don't even know what this is. This is a plaster sculpture. It's kind of pretty looking. The thing that ruins it to me is the meerkat. It's a thing. It was just to kind of, I feel like, pad out the Egyptian theme, and like they just went, oh look, here you go. But there's not much else to say. It's just super specific. Not many people are going to use it. So next up, this was kind of a sleeper thing, but a lot of people don't even understand what this is. So this is emissive window panels. So what does that even mean? So what it is basically it's see-through on one side, if I can kind of show that off, or not see-through, but invisible on one side, and you know, shown off here. And what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to kind of take them and put them behind either lattice pieces or windows or something, and then they just emit light of a certain color of your choosing. And so these are really good, because this is like this pack is showing that Frontier is kind of taking a step in a new direction, where they are recognizing that we just want pieces for stuff that, you know, doesn't quite make sense as a realistic prop, but just stuff to help the, like, ambiance of a zoo. So stuff like, yeah, lighting and stuff like that. And so I am in the one-way glass, same thing. Sometimes you just only want something visible on one side. And so for that reason, I'm going to put these in A tier. They're really cool. It's obviously, you know, I don't know how many uses you're going to get out of, like, an emissive light, but who knows, because that is useful that that's an option now. So, similarly, we can kind of go over, I think the reason we got this was because of the stained glass. It's one-way glass. So, as you can see, from here, it's kind of a darker color, and then you turn around, and then it's a lighter color. So, it's very similar to the barrier system already in the game, but now we have them as glass pieces. So, these are very, very cool. I'm going to put them in S tier. Again, I don't know if people will use them, but they are very cool. So that can be kind of a nice feature. And oh, they did make them flexi color, so they are stained glass, so that is really useful. You know what, for that reason, for the fact that they are stained glass, I'm moving them up to triple S tier, because that's really useful. Because imagine like someone who does do like really cool stained glass using these like tiny window pieces, and you can just make big old stained glass windows and stuff. That'll be really cool. So I'm a big fan of those. They are definitely worthy of S tier. So next up, we are basically at the end of our journey through the North African pack. I mean African pack, because it totally covers all of Africa, with the best of the best. So we'll start with these pieces, because I think a lot of people thought this is what the Africa pack was going to be, and that's, oh, it's 180 pieces with a wall set. No, no, no. All of those buildings in the trailer and stuff were custom built using this giant modular set of plaster that they added. So here are all the gridded pieces, and these are your more super specific stuff. So these are definitely going to be like, oh yeah, these are themed to North Africa, and they just had to be wall sets. So pretty much all of them, I think, in this category are probably going to end up in B tier. Like, it's, you know, if you're someone who is wanting to build some kind of Middle Eastern, North African, Indian architecture, these pieces will work out. So this is what you're all going to want. But for the rest, so here we go. So the columns are a little specific for my liking. That being said, they're still super versatile because of the flexi-colorness. So they have a little bit of texture to them, but you know what? A little bit of texture with a lot of variety isn't a bad thing. So as you can see here, like if I just make all of these white, it totally changes the style. We are now looking at like a Greek theme. We are looking at the classic theme, essentially. Like, these are just additions to the classic theme when you just recolor them to be white. So even though, don't let the bright colors like confuse you or anything, these are super, super useful. And so, like, honestly, for that reason, these columns are going to probably be in A tier. I feel like people are just going to find ways to use them in, like, their builds and stuff. regardless of whatever. Again, some of these more flowery ones, like maybe some of these, I'm gonna maybe knock them down to C tier because they are kind of, maybe D tier even, because they are a little bit like, yeah, who's really gonna use them? But you know, in combination, you can make some cool shapes and stuff, and it could be really cool. So I honestly, I am all for options when it comes to this, because they definitely didn't just go like, here, look, these could have just been non-flexi color, you know, pieces, and then they would have been thrown in F tier like the other, like, weird, this flower thing. But instead, you know, they deserve a good spot. So finally, this is what I've been leading up to, and that is all of the plaster that is in this pack. So we have plaster blocks of all sorts of sizes, from huge giant blocks that, you know, I don't even know what, these are literally just to build quickly. Like if you just want to build giant statues or giant buildings, you use those big old blocks and cylinders. But you can get super like detailed and go individual bricks. If you're someone like Haribo, you're gonna have a blast just making you know, little custom block sets and stuff, and just making individual, you know, things. And that is really cool. So for that reason, the entire, you know, like essentially plaster set gets triple S tier. This is a really good pack. Whether it's the plaster, the chain link, the rope, this is a must-have if you're just going to build general zoos or something. Or, like I said, if you want to build the super niche specific, you know, North African stuff, you can do that. But, like, I saw Drew is already building, like, Tatooine from Star Wars, and I know a bunch of people are just using this to, like, make different things. But I mean, this is an impressive pack. I am all for this pack as a whole. You can take a look at, like, you know, the final catalog. I'll probably chop off some of this just for aesthetic purposes. But as you can see, here you go. The trees kind of block out a lot, but like here's your. It's crazy because like S tier is always like some of the most uninspired props or something. It's just like, whoa, it's just chain link and rope or like glass or whatever. But like, no, that is the beauty of it, is they are so simple that you're gonna use them for everything, and that's why they get such a high rating. And again, like I said, I gotta give some love to some of these props. Like the rhino doesn't look terrible. It is kind of a cool pose. Which actually, it reminds me, I totally forgot about the signs. So we did get signs in this pack. Like I said, Frontier did not label their stuff. So thankfully I remembered. But here is the rhino sign. The rhino sign immediately gets a D tier. It is not a good rhino sign. It's a black rhino for some reason. We got a white rhino in the pack, and it's a mosaic, so who's going to use that? The African penguin. So this is funny. So the African penguin sign uses the exact same image that I used for my African penguin sign as a base from Google. They just made a mosaic. So honestly, I might put it in A tier just for that, because it is really funny. They use the exact same pose, so our signs next to each other look identical, which is really funny. And then, what else did we get? We got some camel signs. Oh, did they... Oh, wait, sorry, they're dromedary signs. So, this was a big thing that was controversial. We did get 4 camel signs, even though we don't have dromedary camels in the pack. They're pretty good-looking signs, I'll say that, and they are just meant to be decoration, but let's face it, like... Are you going to be using that many signs for animals not in the pack? Probably not. So, for that reason, probably put them in, like, what did I put them in? D tier? C tier? Something like the C tier, sure. They're objectively nice-looking signs. They're just not going to be that useful, because unless you have the mod. If you have the mod, that'll be great. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. So finally we have some of these very specific little signs. But you know what? I kind of like these little designs. I like the Egyptian style. Maybe it's just because I do like Egypt, so I'm giving the Egyptian stuff a little bit of a pass, even though it makes 0 sense for the meerkats, makes 0 sense for the, like, fennec fox, stuff like that. But I like the Egyptian signs. So for that reason, they're pretty cool. And yeah, so with that being said, I think that is everything. So I guess I could technically I can review the new paths, but I'm just gonna rate them all like pretty low, to be honest. Like this one gets a slightly higher tier. It's not good, but it's slightly better. And then this one is awful. It looks like something that belongs in a planetarium. And then obviously I always hate the super themed wall sets and stuff. So North African, yeah, this is just garbage. You know what, this gazebo is not too bad, but this trash can is pretty bad, and this picnic table is actually pretty good. I actually like this picnic table. It's just the picnic, what's it called? The umbrella I don't like. But you know what, this is pretty good. So, overall, like I said, I like this pack. This is a really good pack, and I wish I could place this down. There we go. Really good pack, must buy it. I don't want this video to be extended any longer than it already has. So thank you all for watching. Please write your little hate comments about how great the garbage rhino statue is in the comment section. And as always, thank you for watching. I have more videos coming out later today. Thank you all, and goodbye.